show, X's and Bros, right here on the Michigan Sports Network.
Welcome back here to X's and Bros on the Michigan Sports Network. Ben Glaze, Ryan Oakey, Anthony Bellino, all joining you. Join us here on this Monday morning. It's been a couple of weeks since we had a chance to touch to our good buddy who covered the Detroit Tigers minor league system for a couple of decades, a member of the National Football Foundation and Football Writers Association of America. Also had beats in the NBA with the Cleveland Cavaliers and inside the Mid-American Conference. He has been all over the place, recently doing property appraisals as well. His name is John Wagner. Find him on Twitter at John Wagner Media. Johan, my good man, how are you? How's life? How are things, partner?
Hey, Anthony, you know you're living your best life when you write a 5,000-word story about county assessors and how they assess property values and things like that. I am a little slice of heaven. I hope you and your listeners are half as excited as I am. I mean, thank goodness we had all these tournaments that we could watch these past couple of weeks, right? I mean, were you riveted to your TV trying to figure out, wow, where does Drake fit in all this? And how about that Duquesne? And, you know, is Oakland overranked or underranked as a 14 seed and so on? I mean, were you as riveted as I was?
Well, shout out to Duquesne and Keith Dambrot, a guy who spent a lot of time in the Mid-American Conference at Akron, had some success there, and now takes Duquesne to the tournament because that's what you do. You know, when you're an elite coach, you get your team into the tournament. A former guy that we both know, Chris Jans, he would have had Bowling Green in the tournament, but things went a little sour there real quick due to off-the-court stuff. Went to New Mexico, got them into the tournament. Now he's the head coach of Mississippi State, taking on the other MSU, Michigan State, in a battle royale there. You know, these good coaches, they're elite. They get their teams into the tournament. That's what they do. Conference championship week, you know how I feel. You know, shout out to Greg Campy at Oakland University. I had the chance to talk to him last week. That was a lot of fun. You know, the conference championships kind of just are what they are, right? I mean, we know in the one bid leagues, it all comes down to that. Your Kent State Golden Flashes. I mean, if the slogan was ever, more true, can't read, can't write, Kent State, baby. I mean, fouling up one, that poor kid. Rollins was his last name. Oh, my goodness. How is he going to sleep at night? Akron's kid hits a couple of clutch free throws, and Akron, who was the number one team in the Mid-American Conference via the Ken Palm, they're going to the big dance. I mean, it's fun. It's kind of exciting if you're a one-bid league. If you're a league like the Big Ten with Illinois, the Fighting Illini, good for them winning the Big Ten tournament because now we don't have to listen to their fan base cry and complain and whine all the time, so that's a positive. All good things.
Wow. Am I getting part of your therapist's salary for this week? I mean, you're not even going to have to visit your therapist after getting all that stuff off of your chest. Are you feeling better?
Hey,
look
out, Wisconsin in a 5-12 upset special. James Madison, they've been all over the place. What a year they're having for an athletic department. And they're good in football, too. So good for them. And I got to have the Badgers on upset special. And, John, was the conference championship week riveting? It's fun. It always is. But, we know that it kind of robs a team that is the best team for three. It's the old argument of you want to be good for 3 to 4 months, you want to be good for 3 to 4 days when it comes to the one bid leagues. I'm more concerned about Greg Sankey and the commissioner of the SEC, who is playing the role of the Emperor in Star Wars. Why doesn't the Sith Lord himself, why doesn't he just wear a black hood over his head? Because he wants to expand this tournament. He's already dumping on the mid-majors and the low-major leagues, talking about, the runs that some of these Power 5 teams have made into the from the play-in game or the first four into the Sweet 16, into the Final Four. I don't like the rhetoric that he is spewing right now.
And I couldn't agree more. If I can backtrack for just a second, I do love the conference tournaments, watching one-bid teams fight for that bid. That's entertaining stuff. I mean, that's do or die. That's what sports is all about. You mentioned my alma mater, Kent State. I mean, you got to. By the way, you called Rollins out, so let's give some love to him. He had a few minutes before that inadvertent foul, or that ill-advised foul, perhaps. He made a great run to the basket, layup and one, that brought Kent State back from a deficit to actually give them a lead. and kind of set them up in those final minutes. I mean, he hit just huge play. So, but yeah, this is where the heroes and goats are made. Here's the problem, Anthony, and I know you know this, and I know your longtime listeners know. I'm just not a fan of postseason tournaments determining league champions. If Akron, let's use Akron specifically. If they were the best team in the Mid-American Conference this past season, would they not have won the regular season title? Wouldn't they have figured that out over a span of 17, 18 games? No. I mean, they spit the bit the last week of the season and allowed Toledo to sneak in and win the number 1 seed. Now, Toledo, conversely, lost to Kent State early in the tournament. But I mean, they didn't even make a run. They were one and done, and had, even though they were the best team in the MAC in the regular season, I think we can all agree that. Yes, I mean, nobody's going to argue that they had the best record.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree to that.
They were one and done in the tournament and had no shot at making the NCAA tournament. They have none.
Mm-hmm.
So I've used this phrase a lot. Again, I know you've heard it. I know your listeners have heard it. So I apologize for belaboring it a little bit. When a team wins this at this time of year, I would call them the Mid-American Conference Tournament champion, as opposed to the regular season champion.
Well, that's what they are.
In the NCAA tournament, let me finish real quick, Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
In the NCAA tournament, I would not call UConn the defending national champions. I would call them the defending NCAA postseason tournament champions.
Well, that's a lot.
You could argue that they might have been the best team in the country last year, but all they did was win a 3-week tournament at season's end. And it's, to me, I value the regular season. That's why, in baseball, we've got too many teams in the postseason. In basketball and football at the professional level, there are way too many. I mean, way too many teams in the postseason. And I do not care that 8 seeds rise up and win Stanley Cup titles. I don't care. They over the course of a season, and sometimes it might just be because they were bitten by injuries, and when they got their team healthy at season's end, they were the best team in the league. Whatever. Does that regular season not count? If it doesn't count, don't charge me $100 for tickets. It doesn't count, man. It's the playoffs that matter. Don't charge me $100 for regular season tickets.
Well, I mean, this
don't count. Doesn't matter.
This here is American sport theory, though, right? I mean, if you use the NHL, so we'll go with the NHL. If you are the number 1 team in the NHL, you win what is referred to as the President's Trophy, which is pretty cool. And you don't want to touch it, though, because if you touch it, then you're cursed, and you won't win the Stanley Cup. It's just it's a thing. I don't know. In the NFL, you get in all these professional leagues, when you are the best team in your conference overall, you get home field, home court, playoff positioning, and then outside of the NFL, you'll get, if you're the best team, you get the home field advantage or home floor advantage, if you will. But for individual one and done tournaments like the Super Bowl, you play on a neutral site, right? There's 14 teams involved in that, so that's just shy of half of the league being involved in the playoffs. If you look at the NBA now with the play-in tournament, you've got 20 out of 30 teams that make the postseason. That's a little egregious. So my question for college,
no, it's a lot of
for college basketball, which I don't understand how UConn is the number 2 school in the net when they have a better record than Houston. They're better on the road than Houston. They have 3 less quad 1 wins, but 1 less quad 1 loss, but they have 5 more quad 2 wins. I don't know. UConn's 31-3. Would you just crown them the national champion? Because we don't have balanced scheduling at all in college athletics, so you have to have some sort of tournament or national championship style game.
Yeah, I don't have an easy answer for that. I guess let's use the college football back in the day model, because
Prior to BCS or voting?
Pardon?
I'm sorry. Prior to the college football playoff into BCS, or do you want to go further back when it was voted on?
Oh yeah, voted on. Well,
Okay.
That's where I'm saying way back in the day
boy.
when it was voted on.
Yeah. Love that.
That was, there were multiple undefeated teams. Well, how did you sort that out? Who was better than what? That's a tough one.
What
I don't
national
have a
media
great
members were
answer
on the
for you
payroll of what program to vote for that program?
there. Oh, easy now.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, come on. You're telling me that I covered MAC schools. Well, I worked for a MAC school for a while, so yes, I was on a payroll for a time.
Oh.
But late in my, well, no, I was in the athletics department, so there you go. But after that, when I'm covering a team, I'm on their payroll. Seriously? I mean, I wish. I mean, I never got a ring for any of those teams that I covered that won championships.
Here's the issue with voting, though, because the brand power is always better. Like, it can be better than the product on the field, right? So it's like with this new college football playoff format that they want to expand to, there's a special exception being made for Notre Dame. Why? Because they're Notre Dame. That's it. Like, I would love to go back into the years and have be able to put Lou Holtz's national championship team, like, let's put them in a playoff and see what happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's the mystique, it's the myth, it's the brand power. So the voting doesn't work. We have to have a tournament. And to your example with the Mid-American Conference, when you're the conference tournament champion, that's what it says on your banner. When you're the regular season champion, that's what it says on your banner, unless you get instructions from somewhere else when you're introducing them, talking about you have to say that we are the champions of the conference. And it's like, well, regular season, you have to add that, but unless that's like, frowned upon. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, like, it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, I guess let me just make two really quick points. One is, I think my problem is that we put too much emphasis on crowning the tournament champion and not enough on the regular season champion. I mean, in my mind, the regular season champ has proved it over time, over all comers. And in a tournament, you've proved it over a couple of days. You may have gotten a break because you didn't have to face a great team, Did Akron get a break in the MAC because they didn't have to face Toledo? I don't know. Did they? Does Big Ten champion Illinois, they didn't have to beat Purdue to win the title. Did they get a break? I'd say yes. I think Purdue is much better than any other Big Ten team this year. So did they catch a break in winning their title? In my opinion, they sure did. So I guess I don't understand why people give so much more credence to a tournament title won over 3 days by beating a couple of teams, as opposed to a regular season where you've done it for several months and beat all comers. But you're right. I understand your point that we don't have a clean way to figure a champion. You're telling me I don't want it voted on. I just don't want it voted on. Am I right?
Yeah, we don't. I mean, the voting thing can go right out the window. It's got to be results based.
Even if there were a season where one team is clearly, they are clearly head and shoulders above everyone. You want them to prove it on a field. You don't want to just vote them in.
Yeah, you gotta prove it. You have to. I mean, it just there is, unless we're gonna go, and the only reason that I'll use the EPL, for example, European English Premier League soccer. If you wanted to go regular season, because they don't have a tournament, right? Their tournament is their tournament is the Champions League, so it's the best club teams from all of the different leagues in Europe. It's a very unique setup that they have there, and even they have expanded over the years, which I think is ridiculous. But that's neither here nor there. The reason their regular season works, everybody plays a home and home with every other team in the league, and at the end of your 38-game regular season, because you can't play yourself, and there's 20 teams in the league, whoever has the most points is your winner, and then that's that. And sometimes it's a little anticlimactic because you could seal up the league, prior to, and we've seen that happen in the NFL, for example, the Peyton Manning years with the Indianapolis Colts. They would win their division, and then it was like, oh, you're going to rest guys in week 15 and week 16 and get ready for the playoffs. And I just, for me in college sports, because of the oversaturation and the number of teams that we have, there has to be some sort of playoff format in which these teams can play it out. And if it's a one-game eliminator, so be it. I guess just be the best team on that night, and sometimes you get unlucky. And I think that's why we value the Sweet 16. That's why we value the Final Four and the Elite Eight. That's why we place some value on at least making it there.
Yeah, I hear you. One quick thought about since you brought up the premiership, that also can be cockeyed at times, because you mentioned the Champions League. There are times where if, let's say, in the premiership, that team wins the Champions League, there are times where, even though it finished, that a team might have not won the premiership, they won the Champions League, and that is a bigger deal for some folks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't get that. I don't get that.
Yeah, because your top four clubs make it in. You could be the fourth team in your league and make it into the Champions League, and then where they pick the pools and the seeding and everything, and you have a home and home, in that first round with aggregate scoring, and then you hit the one game eliminator bracket, and but that's all part of it. I mean, outside of the NBA, Major League Baseball, and the NHL, where in a best of 7 series, you're typically going to shake out at least who was the best during that series, and if you continue to win, that's a pretty good way to crown a champion, I think. And as for the NCAA tournament, the college football playoff, just kind of it is what it is.
Yeah, I guess I would leave it this way. I don't know of a better way. I would have to really sit here and ruminate to find a better way, okay, to crown a champion. But I guess my understanding is I'm not sure that people should just say, hey, this is the best way, and when it's done, we have a clear and obvious champion. That's my point. I don't think we do. I get it. I wish I had a better example on how to do it. I think people just have to understand that it's a flawed system, but it's the best we've got.
He is John Wagner. Find him on Twitter at John Wagner Media. Look at the NC State Wolfpack, huh? The bid Steelers there winning the ACC tournament. Good for them and shaking up the pot a little bit. John, as always, my friend, appreciate your time this morning. Have a great week.
I hope you and all your listeners have brackets that don't get busted.
Speaking